So I'm going to spend about 45 minutes just going through our box scheme. And then I was going to go out into the packing shed and go straight on there, but I thought I would then hand over to Steve first so that Kate can get this ready for lunch. So by the time I've done my quick bit, we'll listen to Steve, and then we'll go into the packing shed to see how it works. We'll then have lunch for an hour, and then we'll head out to the caterpillar tunnels, and the rest of it will be outside. Plenty of time for overruns, so if we've got questions, just fire them at us. I'd rather have a discussion than being the sole voice of the day. So that's kind of what we're heading for today. So in terms of the veg boxes, it's basically, I'm going to just go through why we've set up the veg box the way we have done, how we've set it up, and then after that, how we make it efficient, how do we make it work, basically. So you can have the best box scheme in the world, but if it doesn't work and if it's not efficient, then it's not doing the business. So I did a longer talk about this at the farming conference about how we've included customer choice into our box scheme. This is a really condensed version of that. And actually, I think we do have a recording of that farming conference talk, so I can signpost you to that later if you wish. But in a nutshell, the way we started the box scheme is it was an incredibly simple offer. We just had 3 fixed box sizes, so small, medium, large. We didn't have any content publishing, so we didn't let the customers know what was coming. We didn't have any swaps or dislikes, so you couldn't change it. And there was a limited number of extras, but very few extras. So the opportunity to build on the basket spend was very limited. And the reason I set it up like this is because it was easy. You know, it's complicated to build a big range of veg boxes. It's complicated to have customization, and it's complicated to say what you're going to give to the customers, because then you've got to stick to it. So the reason I started off this way is just to make my life easy. But I soon realized actually I was serving myself and not the customers, which was a big problem because we weren't growing the veg boxes very quickly. They were stubbornly slow. So we realized that we had to put together a retail offer. You know, being a farmer and having a veg box scheme means that you are a retailer. You have to start thinking in retail terms to have a successful box business. And that includes focusing on value, quality, and convenience, the sort of things that customers want and expect from supermarkets. So a lot more of that thinking started going into our scheme. We had to communicate better. So we had to tell people about our values. We had to tell people what we had on offer and recipe ideas. We had to communicate and bring them into our world so that they could engage with our veg box scheme, be more loyal, be more sticky or with us for the long term, and actually really buy into us as an organization. So part of that communication is telling people what they're going to get in their box and how you can deal with what's going to be in the box. And I think this last one this was a tidbit that Steve sort of told me at one point, saying, you've got to treat your website like you treat your market stall. You want it to look good. You want it to pile up. You want it to look bountiful. You want there to be nice pictures on there. You want the information to be there, the price, everything has to be there so that it looks really nice. And those principles you really should do to your website. I've seen so many box websites where it's just kind of flung up there and you expect it to sell. And actually you really do have to put a little bit of effort into it to make it look enticing and tell the story of what your veg boxes are. And so going from that very simple model of no choice, we've now radically changed to a model that has lots of customer choice. And it's really built around 4 key aspects. One is our standard boxes. So rather than having 3 standard boxes, we have 11. So we have a big range. And the reason for that is it's much easier for someone to put a box in their basket as a regular recurring order and for them to be happy about it. So there might be less roots options. There might be fruit options. whatever kind of suits the general mood of that customer, they're much more likely to put it in their basket and have it there for the long term. So a big range was important, and I'll go through a bit later why there are some knock-on effects of why a big range actually helps me as a farmer as well, but I'll talk to that in a bit. Swaps, this was a huge thing. So not only saying you can dislike something, so I'll swap it in the packing shed, but actually putting the power into the customer's hand to say, I don't like a turnip, give me asparagus. So they've made that decision themselves. So I'm not putting in kohlrabi for a turnip because it's kind of the same and I'm still annoying the customer. They've made that choice, they're happy with that choice, and every time you see a swap in the box, that means that there is a customer who is more happy now than they were before they made that swap. So that's really crucial. Now, I flippantly said there was that you could swap asparagus for turnips or whatever I said, and the great thing about the software is it charges the difference. So if a customer wants something more expensive for a cheap item, they can have it, and you just charge the difference. So there's a fair value for the farmer, but also a fair value, recognition of that value for the customer as well. So swaps is a really big piece. Add-ons. We've vastly increased our add-on range. I think I looked at last week's, and there was 101 different items that went through our veg boxes last week, and that includes everything from vegetables, fruit, to bread and things that are in our farm shop. So we really ramped up the availability of things that a customer can get. And if you think about it, we've made all that effort to get to a customer's doorstep, and then we've got other stuff that customers will want. Why not provide it? So that's what we're doing. You know, we have bread, we have our own eggs as well, but also all sorts of things that we have available in our farm shop. And then ordering flexibility. We wanted to really break down the barriers for someone to start joining our scheme. And if it meant that you had to, and I know a lot of CSA schemes do this, is that if you get someone through the door, they're in there for the year, which is fantastic for the farmer, but it means you've got to make a really big step for a customer to get over that hurdle. Now there's two benefits, or there's two sides of the coin here. For a CSA, once you get someone over that line, they are with you for a whole year. There is absolute certainty that they'll be with you, but it's difficult to get new customers. For us, it's really easy to get new customers, but harder to keep them because you're offering all this flexibility. So when you're offering flexibility in terms of how often you can order, whether you can have holidays, whether you can just stop or just have a one-off box, if you're having all that flexibility, you need to have all these other things to keep them there. If all you've got is flexibility and saying it's really easy for you to leave my scheme, people will just leave it. If you're not, if you haven't got the swaps and the large range and all the other stuff, then it's difficult to keep them there with you. I hope that makes sense. It's really, I see a lot of schemes that are going into the ordering flexibility, but are starting to lose customers because they haven't thought about all the nice stuff you can get as well as part of customization. Okay, so where we are now is that we've got a holistic solution, and I'm just going to sort of say why we've done it in terms of these are some of the benefits that we've got, and then I'll go into how we do it in a minute. So basically, where we are now is we've got a great software platform. We've got our processes down to a T in the packing shed. We're all paperless. And what it means is that we have vastly reduced our admin time. I don't know this for sure, but I think we probably do the same amount of admin that a 100-box scheme has, but we're doing about 400. So it's really, the administration is vastly reduced. And that's on a number of fronts. That's not just the software, it's the tools that we use on Google Sheets, it's our customer support platform, and it's about how we communicate in the packing shed as well. So it's a whole pronged approach of reducing admin time all the way through. We empower the team to use the data. So if I'm the gatekeeper of information, everything goes through me, then there's a problem. There's inertia in the system. So everyone can access what we need for the boxes, what we need to pick, what we need for the delivery runs, what we need for a particular workstation. So it's all accessible, and it doesn't need someone else to get in the way to give you that information. So that's cool, key. As a part of the customization, we now have increased sales and more successful payments. So after the pandemic, during the pandemic, we had about 550 boxes. So we went up from 200 to 550, and it was a little bit crazy. After it, we had a gentle decline. So when lockdowns properly ended, we were going down and down and down. We ended up being at about 250 boxes. And when we flipped and allowed much more customization, we suddenly saw that creeping up again. And now we're at roughly about the 400 boxes a week level. So, and what's really interesting is that our 400 boxes now are easily worth as much as the 550 boxes that we had in the pandemic. So they're bigger basket spends, they're more valuable, and we're getting a lot more retention with our customers. So it's fantastic. We have much quicker deliveries. So we have a delivery app. The way we pack the boxes means that the vans are very efficient in terms of their space, so we can reduce the size of our vans. We don't have to have refrigeration on our vans anymore. We used to have refrigerated vans which broke down, needed maintenance, and were expensive in the first place. Now it's all ambient, and because the way we organize the boxes, boxes can stay cool all day in the hottest day because of the way we pack in the van. So the deliveries have just got much quicker. I think our biggest run is last week was 102 deliveries in Oxford, and that took about 6.5 hours to do. So it's pretty quick. In the more rural routes, we're doing more like 60 to 70, and it's a longer day because you're doing more miles. But certainly the deliveries are a lot quicker from where we were before. And so when all that came together, so the money was coming in more successfully, we had less admin time, the team was empowered to access the information, we suddenly had more headspace, and we could look up and say, and actually critique what we were doing. So we could look at our offer, we could see what we were putting online and improve it. We could improve our product shots, how it looks on the website. We could actually started looking at refining the packing line. So when we started off packing boxes like where pretty much every order is customized, it all of a sudden took a long time. You know, we're going from doing standard boxes to then doing customized boxes every week for every order. It took a long time, and then we could actually start to look at the packing line, and now we're quicker at packing boxes with bespoke boxes than we were when we were doing standard boxes. So I think the point is that we had the headspace to think about it and do it, and as a team we collectively attacked the problem together. We had more headspace to plan our crops. So now there's some interesting things that have come up, like Jerusalem artichokes are really popular. They're also really unpopular. But if you make them available and people can swap them out, you can sell loads of them, and they're really easy to grow this time of year, so or available this time of year. And you can really start to plan what you want to put in the ground so that you can meet those markets. So I definitely don't want to have any glut whatsoever in the summer holidays. You know, we all know that. But if you look at the data, there's very, very clear, distinct drops with every half term, with every holiday, and there's also really interesting spikes. So obviously we know about the spike in January with healthy eating, but there's a huge spike in September, and I didn't really realize it before. And now you can start to see those spikes, and then plan your cropping accordingly with that. And that's really, really interesting to be able to see that data and the trends. Hopefully Steve will talk more about that later. And it also gave us the headspace to be more proactive and for the team to actively participate. And the really cool thing about where we are now is that if you come back in a month's time, it will probably be different because we're always refining, we're always looking at it, and we're always egging each other on to be better. And, you know, we don't really like sitting around wasting our time, so you know, let's get better at it. So it's pretty cool. So where have we got to now? These are just some of the benefits, but there's so many, from customer numbers up, higher basket spend, fewer packing mistakes. This is a huge thing for us. Packing mistakes are really expensive in terms of time, money, and customer loyalty. So that we really focused on eradicating problems. Less admin, less waste. It's a really interesting byproduct of adding more choice, is that now I've got far less waste than I used to, because I can manage the available produce with stock levels, so that I'm getting rid of more stuff. And it sounds counterintuitive, but it really does put more control back into my hands in terms of what I've got on offer. Our packing area and footprint is vastly reduced, so we're now on about a third of the area that we were before. When we were doing 550 boxes, we were in here, we were in there, and we had all of that area over there. So we were laying them all out over the place, and then just going around with trolleys and scales, filling up things. So our footprint is vastly reduced. Van space is reduced, and after much tinkering, we're now packing more boxes per person per hour.
Quick question.
Yep.
So thinking how more choice ends up, you can actually reduce waste. There's tricks, perhaps, can do it for a market by how I present things on the store. Price doesn't make much difference. How you present your choices of the surplus, are there little tricks for doing that on the website, the box scheme, or do you just rely on people wanting it?
Yeah, so there's two things there. One is waste through gluts, and one is waste through the planning process and not really balancing our veg boxes properly. So in terms of gluts, I would put them in every box, and if I had a glut, I put them in every box every week for a while, and if people don't like them, they can swap out. In the past, if they couldn't swap out, they go, I don't want another courgette, leave me alone, I'm going to stop my boxes, and then wait till the boxes don't have courgettes in again. Now I can just sort of flood my veg boxes with a surplus. The other thing is about box planning. So if I can have a balanced portfolio of veg boxes and their contents, I can balance all of my produce more evenly across the boxes. In the past, I had small, medium, large, where everything in a small was in a medium, everything in a medium was in a large. And it ended up my risk being huge, because I'd have 500 items of cabbages, and if I couldn't meet the demand, I'd have a huge headache. Now I've got them all balanced, so I'm kind of about the sort of 80 to 100 of each unit across all my boxes, and my risk is far reduced from that, okay? Now, in every box we allow 2 swaps, and the swaps that you can put in are based on stock controls. So based on what I can see in the shopping behavior, I will modify the stock levels on the site to steer people towards the turnip or towards the cabbage or whatever. You know, it so happens that we're now at a stage where if we're going to put green kale in every box, I'm going to pick under what my target is, because I know that after a few weeks people are going to be swapping that out for something else. But I will over order or over pick on other things that I know are going to go in because they're not in the boxes every week. So one thing that we've seen recently is mushrooms are incredibly popular this time of year, because people are fed up with kale and cabbage. And so we've, by offering some good swap options in your box, means that you can retain those customers rather than fleeing for the hills because they've had enough. I hope that answers the question.
Yeah.
But it's very much box oriented in terms of how we reduce the waste and the gluts. But yeah, it's really, for me, it's about reducing the risk and spreading the load balancing the veg boxes. Jamie, this is from
Hello.
Jamie from Blacklands.
I'm going to go and sit down.
Yeah, go sit down.
Can I ask a
Yeah, yeah.
question? So have you changed your software for your cropping program then to go with the box?
No, I trial tend for a while, and the issue I had was that it took an awful lot of data to keep it alive and to keep it going. And although I was willing to participate in that, the whole team wasn't. So we are now still using spreadsheets to organize our cropping plan, but to manage it, we've kind of delegated it into areas. So I do the field scale, and then the market garden team do the planning for that, and then we come together and make sure that there's no clashes in terms of getting huge spikes of crop at the same time. So we work together, we split the job up, it's all on spreadsheets, and so that's what we've done. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Can I just ask, you said you've reduced the boxes per hour, increased the number of boxes per hour per person?
Yep.
I know it's a difficult question because you've got different box sizes, but do you have a kind of an average across all your box sizes of what one person would do in 1 hour?
Yeah, so, well, we are doing, when we've set up the line properly, we can do between 100 and 140 boxes an hour with 4 people and with one other person in a support role. So restacking shelves, tidying up, sorting out problems that we might have. So that's five people, so 4 plus 1, 5 people doing about, probably on average, about 105, 110 boxes an hour.
Okay.
Yep.
So it's about 26 for one person.
Yeah, if I got my calculator out.
Okay. Thanks.
But it, when we were doing 550, we had a much bigger team packing, and the amount of mistakes that we made were, they would come in batches, so you'd find that there was a whole table that didn't have carrots, and so we've got to sort out a whole table's worth of customers to email them and give them a refund, and then and then you've got the waste in the cooler and all that sort of stuff. So it's the speed has not come at the expense of and the reduction in labour has not come at the expense of the quality. In fact, it's the reverse.
Have you refined your crop planning in relation to the development of the boxes as you sort of offered more customisation, or is your crop planning still similar?
The overarching theme is similar. I have changed things significantly in terms of the brassica rotation because we are always running out of the sort of December to March produce. So I've definitely changed that an awful lot. I've always in the past grown too much because I wanted to be ready for an opportunity and then using in the wholesale markets to sell on my excess produce. In the last 3 years, I've never had, well, just occasionally I've had a surplus, but very, very rarely. So I've had maybe some courgettes that are surplus or something like that. But in general, I've had to order in to bump up our produce. And then I work like crazy to fill the cropping plan to say, okay, we've ordered in last year, how can we close that gap and grow it ourselves? So I've had a very pragmatic approach to not being a purist to say, I'm never going to buy in, because I will, to help us sell all the other stuff I have, but then work like crazy to close the gap with the cropping plan. So this year we're really focusing on the hungry gap. We've had real problems keeping lettuce looking good in the early spring, so we're going to just try new things to try and not have mouldy lettuce sitting in the polytunnels that you can't use, for example.
What percentage is bought in this time of year?
This time of year it's pretty high, so it's probably about 80%. but we're very transparent about it. We say exactly where things have come from. And I think our customers realize that we actually have produce ourselves to sell. So we have salad, we have chard, we have spinach, we have Jerusalem artichokes. So we have all these things, and we need to sell them, but they're not going to buy just those on their own. It comes with stuff that we buy in. As soon as we hit July, with the exception of fruit, we're 100% our own produce, and we start sort of buying in some things as it runs out when we get to November time.
So your price per box varies each week? Or
No, we have a fixed price per box, and I adjust the contents according to the price point of the box. But we get upsells with add-ons, but we also get upsells in the box itself. Like I was saying with the asparagus example, the basket spend can go up with just a box because people have made swaps.
So if you're buying in and things become short, then that affects your cost price and your margins reduce.
Yeah. There's no doubt that if I grow it myself with our team, it's far cheaper. We have a bigger margin. Our margin definitely goes down in the winter time, but there's this thing that happens every January where we get a spike of customers, so our demand goes way up. So the cost increase is kind of almost balanced out by the increased demand. So the veg box trend over the year is almost reversed. You kind of want it the other way around. You want everyone to come on board in July rather than January.
Sure. Do you have any policy around you buying in imported veg or grown overseas or all that kind of stuff? Or is it sort of, do you say UK only, or do you just keep quiet about that and use...
No, totally transparent.
No judgment from me if you do buy it overseas?
No, I do. I absolutely do. On our website and in the farm shop, we'll always say where it's come from. And people do make buying choices based on where it's come from. For about 45 weeks of the year, we have an SLF only veg box, so it will only come from us. And for a few months of the year, we'll have a UK only veg box where we can't really do all the items in it. But otherwise, the transparency is there on the site. We used to have another veg box. I don't really want to badmouth people, but we used to have another veg box scheme on the farm, and they weren't transparent about where the vegetables were coming from, and all of their customers assumed that it was coming from us, and they felt really quite cheated when they found out that actually it was from the wholesale market, from Europe, and so on and so forth. So that transparency is really, really important. I think transparency for the organic movement in total is important as well. But yes, I am pragmatic, and I will use the wholesale markets to create an offer that will keep my customers going so that I can then fill the gap and be more successful in my growing to plug those gaps. Okay? So how do we make it more profitable? We make it more profitable with software, with process design, with intense activity, and communication and delegation. So that's kind of how we do it. So now I'm going into why we've organized the veg box scheme in terms of the customer offer. Now I'm going into how we do it. The intense activity one I really like because we do an awful lot of work, like 100 plus boxes an hour is intense, but we're doing it for 4 hours and then it's done, and then we're all free to do market gardening, to work in the shop, to drive or to do whatever. And everyone actually actively participates in that really intense time, and we get it done. And so I think one of the interesting things in terms of how we do make it profitable is that we are getting that regular income from the veg boxes, and it's about £9,500 a week. We also have the farm shop, which is getting roughly £6,000 a week. So all of that revenue is at the expense of or as the result of very intense work. So we're concentrating all our efforts into a very small time, which makes us free and available to do the growing, to do everything else. So I've really worked hard at trying to make it intense, but it doesn't feel like it's a drudge because you're doing it every day. It's a once a week thing. Now, if we were to get to 600 boxes a week, I don't think I could ask my team to do what they're doing now, so I would probably organize it slightly differently. I'd probably have a dedicated box team to do it. But right now, we can easily all get together and do it in one day. Okay? So, go on.
How many full-time equivalents have you got?
So we have about 12 people. Full-time equivalents is probably about 9-ish. But that includes shop drivers, market gardeners, and yeah, so that's everyone on the team. I think actually, by the way, we achieve an awful lot with that 9 people equivalent. Whenever we have open days on the farm, people can't quite understand how the size of our team can get it all done. But I think it's that intensity. If you can have lots of intense periods of activity, it's interesting, you get a lot done, and then you can move on to the next thing. You know, I think that's an important thing. So just in terms of a summary, about 350 to 415 boxes a week, 11 boxes in our range. We have free delivery with a veg box or a minimum order of £20. So we have some customers, you're passing down an empty box because they've only ordered bread, for example, so we do allow that. You can have 2 swaps in a box, apart from our value box, where there's no swaps. You're going to get what I give you. So there is a cheap box that is basically the surplus box, if you like, or the stuff I want to get rid of. We've got a wider range of extras. So like I said, we had about 101 items that went in the boxes last week. We pack on a Wednesday, so it's all done in one day. We don't spread it out across multiple days. And we deliver on a Thursday and Friday. So we have 4 runs that we do, 2 vans, and then we have pickups from the farm as well. So, oh, by the way, we also have a delivery partner in Oxford that takes our excess. So we try and make sure all of our vans are full, and then anything that's left over we give to an e-bike courier service so that they are delivering them in Oxford. So that means that our vans are efficient. We're getting the best value out of them as possible. We're not buying a third van and maintaining it and the people and the fuel for that extra. We're using other services, which may be more expensive, but it's definitely cheaper in the long run compared to maintaining a vehicle. Okay? So that's the summary. I'm realizing I'm probably talking a long time here. What is the time? Okay, so this is just briefly what we go through in the week. So we start off with contents planning. So that's where everything is set. We do our ordering at that stage. Then there's a shopping period where we communicate with the customers, we do the picking, and we manage our stock controls. The ordering, so that's when the deadline hits, and that's when everything is set in stone, and we've got to fulfill it. The packing, so we do the labeling, the portioning, the packing, and the stacking of it on a Wednesday. We deliver on Thursday, Friday, and I want to go through the loading, how we load the van, but also the driver app, how that's used. And then we have admin support, which is general. So we all throughout this period, we're answering emails and keeping on top of the issues that customers might have. Okay, so in terms of contents planning, I did briefly allude to this earlier, but we have a box builder. We have 11 boxes in our range. And then you can't quite see it, but there's a summary of all of the vegetable items I need to fulfill these boxes based on my estimate numbers. Now, my estimate numbers are always higher than the current numbers because I have a lot of customers who buy boxes at the last minute. It's incredible that I've got a really loyal customer base that only shops with me on Tuesday night. And if I knew that at the beginning, I'd be going, where are they all gone? Where are they? And I'm not sure I'd want to sort of go on here. But it's interesting that they really make a considered choice about what they're going to have that week, late on, as part of their lifestyle, part of their routine, and they're very, very valuable. So very, very loyal. What am I? Yeah, that's why my estimates are higher. So I've got a list of all the produce that I need to fulfill this, and then I use this list to cross-check on what I have got in the fields and what I need to order on the wholesale market. Okay, so that's how I do it. It's really simple just to change the weights and the contents, and what I tend to do is I copy the contents from 2 weeks ago, so there's always a natural change between the 2 weeks, so that if someone's getting a veg box every week, there's natural variation. But some people can copy every 3 weeks or completely make up the veg boxes from scratch. But it essentially is pretty easy to do. The reason why, and I alluded to this earlier, I have 11 is that I can balance the risk across all the veg boxes. And you can see this if you look at Riverford's offering. They've probably got about 18 different boxes. But you'll see that every single box is different, but they're all kind of part of the same constituents. So they balanced the contents of those boxes to make sure that they're not having a huge spike or a huge risk of one particular item that's in every box. Okay, sometimes I will want that huge spike if I've got a glut, with courgettes or cucumbers or whatever. But by and large, the more boxes you sell, the more you want to sort of hedge your bets in terms of what's in them. But that variation is very useful for customers. So the more variation you have, the less likely it is to be an issue that you've only got 2 swaps. Okay, so you've got a lot of choice in terms of which box you choose, but also what those 2 swaps. So for me, that's actually quite a lot of control in terms of what's going in the boxes, and for the customer, it's actually quite a lot of control for them too. So it's a nice meeting in the middle there. At this point, we would also look at the add-ons. So it's our veg box manager's specific job on a Friday to look through all of our harvest predictions and on our ordering, to go through the site, and he spends about an hour doing it, to make sure that we are putting everything that could be available on the site is available. And since he started doing that, our basket spend has jumped up by another 50p. So that extra hour on a Friday just to look at what the offer is has really started to ramp up our basket spend. At this point, we'd also look at stock control. So we don't use stock control for everything because it's unlimited. But for some things that I've bought in or I've got of limited value, I will use stock control. I'll use that to my advantage. So if we've got about 10 to 15 bunches of coriander, parsley, and like fresh herbs at the moment. In the past, I could not put that in the boxes because I couldn't control how many would be selling. Now I can put it on as an extra, just fling it on there, and they sell, and it goes up to the stock limit, and they're sold out. So stock control is part of that planning process too. So in terms of the timeline, Tuesday we do our wholesale order. Friday we modify the add-ons and stock. And Saturday we publish the contents so that customers can then shop and do swaps from that point on. The publishing is an important milestone. The reason why I say that is that when you publish, customers can say they can pre-say what they don't like and what they do like. Or if they don't like anything, then the system will just make a swap for them. So when you publish, you get auto swaps that happen. So the system will actually automatically take out potatoes if you don't like them. As a customer, you can then go and override that. So you could say, actually, I don't like potatoes, but actually, I do want potatoes this week, right? So that's in the hands of the customer. So there's 2 distinct things of the auto swaps and the manual swaps. But in terms of process, they're exactly the same. Customers can override them.
How do you manage the wholesale orders then? You could end up having like 10 boxes of watercress that nobody's bought.
Yeah, that's exactly right. That's why I'm saying, like, I spread my risk across the boxes. So I would only put watercress in boxes that I knew, would sell. And then I'd put them up as an extra. And if I really wanted to flog them, I'd put them up as a swap as well. So I've got 3 things that I can play with there. And if I'm really desperate, we would be communicating it on the mailer, saying we've got watercress in this week. We've got, and then also on the social media as well. So it's a multi-pronged approach to get rid of the stuff. But if you do overorder, you know, it's a bit of experience in terms of knowing what is going to go in the boxes and what's not going to go in the boxes. In the past, I certainly had a lot more waste than I do now because I can predict it better. Okay. So shopping, then we go from the planning phase to the shopping phase, and this is where customers are having at it. So typically, we have two big spikes of demand. One is when our mailer goes out on a Monday, so it tends to go out at about lunchtime on a Monday, and you can see on our website a huge spike in people accessing the site to do their shop. So what's interesting is that the mailer goes out, links to our website, goes to our homepage, and then you can go to our VegBox shopping from our homepage. And on our homepage, that's basically our shop window. We can say we've got an event out on the farm. We can say that we've got a special on watercress. You know, so that's a really powerful tool. Our homepage is now, by definition, the most visited page on our website. It's not our shopping page, it's the homepage, and that's where we can really start to communicate with customers. So we have that big spike, and then we have a second spike at 4 o'clock on a Tuesday when there's an order reminder deadline that gets sent out automatically saying, this is what's in your basket, this is your last chance to change it, and then we have a huge spike of demand on there. So I know that I have to have the website kind of up to date on those two periods because that's exactly when the activity is going. So there's no use me putting up watercress on Monday night because I've missed a big opportunity to sell watercress. Okay, so knowing those trends is really important. That while people are shopping, I've got access to all the data. I can see what has been sold, how many boxes. I can see the portions of everything, and that's key because we can start to pre-portion some things before we know what the orders are. So before everything's finalized, we can start to get ahead on some of the effort and take time outside of the veg packing day into Tuesday. And so we'll do a lot of that. We'll actually guess. Well, not guess. We know it's sold because it's in the baskets. But we will start to pack well before we get to order deadline date. So at that point, we would adjust our stock control. We might promote things up the screen. So you might say we've got loads of watercress left. Let's put it at the top of the screen so it's the first thing that people see. So you know, there's various different levers that we can use there. So in terms of the timeline, the Saturday auto swaps and manual swaps happen from Saturday, Monday mailer, Tuesday 4 p.m., Tuesday night at 11, Tuesday evening we do social media posts, so they'd be planned on our stories to say come and shop, and then at Tuesday at 11 p.m. the orders are processed, and then we know what we're doing. Okay.
So you're picking and packing for the boxes on a Wednesday then?
We are the only thing we're picking.
Tuesday.
The only thing we're picking is the leafy stuff on a Wednesday. Everything else is picked. So we can see right up to the order deadline what the orders are. And so we're picking on Monday. We pretty much know what we're going to do for the roots and things like that. And then on Tuesday, we'll do the leafy things like spinach and chard. And then on Wednesday, we'll do herbs and salad and things like that, when we know exactly what our orders are. So yeah, we don't go out into the field multiple times. We're pretty good now at knowing what we're going to pick. Yeah, so does that answer the question?
Oh no, it's very similar to the way we work, but we've got a Monday midnight deadline.
Yeah. So that's interesting.
So it gives us a day.
That is a very good point. We could do that. The reason I don't is because I want to reduce the amount of time between order deadline and when you get the box. If your deadline is on Monday and you get it on Friday, it seems like a lifetime away. So if it's on a Tuesday night and you're getting it on a Friday, it's just a little bit more concentrated and you've got a longer window for your shop to be open But I've still got certain, quite a degree of certainty about what I've got to pick because I can see the live baskets. I can see what's happening. I can even see the swaps out, so I can see what people are fleeing away from. So I can get a really good sense of what's going on in the veg boxes. And you don't have to have a PhD in statistical analysis to see it. It's pretty easy to see it in the system.
When you have to order, you have to buy your stuff in a week ahead anyway, don't you order that? So I
Yeah,
suppose
just
the
to
next
like
step is
like this
that.
morning, for example, I was missing some chard on the foot, and I just rang up this morning and said, "Please, can you put an extra 10 on my order, just to top it up?" I could have changed. I could have made it unavailable on the site, but I just, for the sake of a phone call, I'll just not do the admin, supply it, and do it like that.
And do you have like a flurry of admin activity then between that deadline on Tuesday night and like going out to pick salad or whatever, or making sure box numbers are just right
Nope.
on the Wednesday?
No, our flurry of activity is after the deadline is done, then we're getting pack ready. So all of our labels are being printed out, all of our driver paperwork is done, the route planning is done. So that's where most of the effort is.
But that has to be done after the Tuesday night deadline.
Yeah. So that's just things that we go through to get ready for the packing line itself. In terms of a flurry of activity, we know pretty much on a Monday morning what the boxes are going to look like, and then by a Tuesday afternoon, we can see where there are problems going to be arising. So if we're short on something, by that time, I would likely change the boxes to accommodate those shortfalls. And if I do it before 4 p.m. on a Tuesday, it means when the mailer goes out saying this is what's in your box, they've got an opportunity to make swaps if they don't like how I've changed it.
But so after the deadline's passed, that's when you know exactly how many boxes you need and what the content is going to be. Is it just a case of someone printing out the final results or whatever and making sure they're shared amongst the team? That's all you have to do.
Yeah, so that is exactly what we're going to do when we're in the packing shed, is go through what that looks like. So that's the practicalities of what it looks like in the packing shed.
What's the proportion of your customers put their order in on that Tuesday evening?
I think, was it 20%? Was it did Tuesday evening, like didn't have had a completely empty basket and then suddenly did an order?
Yeah, I've got it in my slides actually. I think it's something like 16% are one-off orders, but that doesn't mean that it's necessarily Tuesday night. They've started the week with an empty basket. So, but I'll
You
confirm.
started the harvest without knowing what's around sort of 50 and 80 boxes. You don't actually know what their boxes are going to be, and they can choose anything at all.
Yeah, I know. The thing is that sounds scary when you put it in that terms, but it really doesn't work out that way. You've got a high degree of certainty on a Tuesday, even on a Monday, especially with a bit of experience, is that doesn't really happen. And if I was really short on something that was precious, I would probably pick up to 80% of it, and then just do the final pick when I was certain about what the numbers were.
Is it as simple as you just adding 16 to 20% on all of the box size?
Oh, in terms of my estimation, yeah. Well, what I do is I look at last week's, and I use that as a basis for what is likely to happen this week. The only caveat to that is just watch out for half terms and holidays so that you're not kind of overdoing it. But yeah, I base my estimations on what the trend was last week and the week before.
Presumably, isn't your shop open Thursday, Friday, Saturday? So you're also any surplus that you picked can go into the shop.
Yeah. So I am certainly at a distinct advantage from someone who only has a box scheme, is that I always over order so that I've got things for the farm shop. It has happened recently that I haven't had enough for the farm shop, because I was expecting to have a tail down in demand by now, but it's been pretty buoyant. But the farm shop is a big reason why we want to have the intensity of the boxes, so that we can put that to bed and now concentrate on the farm shop and what that needs. So that's.
Hypothetical, but how much of a problem would it cause running the box scheme that way if you didn't have a farm shop? If you say you're in a rental location.
Yeah, I mean, obviously I'm not in that position, so it's hard for me to be an authority on it, but the sorts of things that I would look at is having places that I could dump stock on, whether they be pubs, restaurants, or other shops. You could even have a box that doesn't have any contents at all. So I'm going to decide on a Wednesday morning what goes in it. So you're going to get 5 cabbages and a carrot. You know, you could do something like that. So there are definitely ways of approaching it. But I think what's important is that knowing the data, knowing the trends of how the week is unfolding means that you can react to it rather than actually wake up on a Wednesday and go, you know, I've got a problem here. It's my busiest day of the week. I don't want to sit for an hour trying to solve this problem. I want to solve it on Tuesday so that I've got a clear run for Wednesday. Any question?
Yeah, it sounds like you're really on top of your statistics. Is that analysis something you've done separately, or is that built into the software you offer?
Yeah, I sound like I'm a bit of a guru, but I've been led by the lead rope by Steve, because that is actually in the software now. And some interesting things like we can see how people found us. And we're getting a lot of referrals from our bread supplier who are saying that we're one of the outlets for their bread. So we're getting like 30 hits a week from these strange places. And that's like, well, let's let them know about it, and then they can give us more customers. Or, you know, so we can actually be proactive about some of the data that's coming from it. I looked last night, and there was oxfordmummies.co.uk was sending us 30 hits a week. And it's like, okay, well, maybe we should do a partnership with them. You know, there's obviously something going on there. But you can also look at when they hit the site. So you can see, you know, when a mailer goes out, spike, 4 p.m. on a Tuesday, spike. So yeah, you can see that data.
And how much time do you think you were getting to the planning stage?
So it's about an hour and a half. So that's including the wholesale order as well. So it takes me about maybe an hour to think about what would be in the boxes, and then about half an hour to execute that in terms of getting my orders done. So I will do that tonight, and I would have done it in the day if this session wasn't on. But yeah, I just do it at night.
So is that an hour for the lead grower to put in what's available, and then an hour and a half for you to do the building as well?
That's a good point. I do ask the team when they're harvesting to give me an availability list. So we have a Google sheet that says what is available for next week. And so when they're out harvesting, they'll come back and say, this is what's available for the boxes next week. And I use that as a basis. So I'm not including that time, the team's time, to give me that information. But yeah, for me to build the boxes on the box builder and then to use that list to order from takes an hour and a half, and that's it.
Okay.
Yeah, in the past, that took a lot longer. But yeah, it's pretty slick. In fact, it was the first thing that was built in the software, and it was originally just going to be a tool that growers could play with. And in hindsight, it was the best thing we did, because I'm not sure we would have done it in hindsight. It was kind of a nice gimmick in the beginning, but it's turned out to be such a useful tool to have that box builder. Okay, no more questions? So now we're getting to order deadline. Orders are set in stone. The first thing that we're doing is the route planning. So at this point, I'll be looking at the customer ordering, and I'll see maybe there's 80 orders in the Ford van and 50 orders in the EV van, and I'll want to load balance that so that people have got a balanced day throughout the day. So typically on the margins of where the delivery runs are, I'll swap orders around between the vans. So you can just go through and select, say, move that to that run, move that to, you know, so that you've got a balanced load. And then you press the optimize button, and it creates the shortest route for the delivery run. If you want to reverse it, you can do. So there's some reasons why you might want to have it the other way around. And after all of that happens, you can actually just reorder individual deliveries if you want. So you might know that I'm going down that road. if I just jumped over a hedge or jumped over to go through a stile, then I could do that person at the same time. So I can actually manually reorder the deliveries as well. So that happens on a Wednesday morning. Probably takes about half an hour to 40 minutes to do. But as soon as the route planning is done, that sets into motion the entire day. So we pack in that order, we deliver in that order, we get everything ready for the packing line in that order. It defines everything. So now we've got a series of discrete buckets, delivery runs and delivery days that we're working towards. So that's why I'm talking about it, because the route planning is where it all starts. And then we do our supplier ordering. So we try and have zero stock on our bread. So at that point, we know exactly what our bread order is. We put it in and saying, this is the bread we want. Have it delivered on a Thursday morning, Friday morning. It comes here at 6 a.m. The drivers put it in the van and off they go. So zero stock for the bread. We'd also know we'd order from the farm shop. So the farm shop would go in there and just pick off the shelves everything for the boxes. And that would include coffee, cheese, some stored goods. One of the really surprising bestsellers is butter. Organic butter, we sell so much of it. And it's not something I would have really appreciated before we started having add-ons. But yeah, it's a very, very popular item. So that's done. We do the final leafy pick, salad. I look at payment issues. Now, in the past, I would always look at payment issues a week late because I just don't want to deal with it. Now it's so easy to look at where there are payment failures, and it happens for two reasons. One, there's insufficient funds on the card, and the other is that people have changed their card or lost their card, so it's changed. So if it's insufficient funds, I ignore it for now. If it's a card problem, I use our help desk software, which has canned responses. So there's responses already written out that says, thank you for ordering, there's a payment failure, please can you update your payment scheme, so on and so forth. So I'll shoot those out, and it will typically be about maybe 3 payment problems for card changing, and maybe about 3 for insufficient funds. So I'll shoot off those 3 emails quickly, and by the time we start packing, people would have emailed me back saying, oh, sorry about it, we updated it. I go into the system, say, take payment, and it's all sorted. So the reason why I say that is because in the past, I waited for a week, or sometimes for 2 or 3 weeks to follow it up. And by that time, it's a very different feeling, very different relationship with the customer. They might be pissed off with you. I don't know what it is. Like, why are you asking me 3 weeks later for money? I would have so many payment failures in the past. Because it's so easy and I do it immediately, we have an incredible payment success rate. I look back on it this year so far, we've got 1 person who hasn't paid. And it's someone who I have to get money off in another way. They won't pay by card, which is annoying. I probably should drop them. But yeah, literally 1 person who hasn't paid. And if you run a box scheme, that's pretty cool, if you've got experience of it. And the whole reason is because I'm being proactive. And because it's easy, I am being proactive. So that's done. Yeah, so all of that is done. That's before we get down. That's basically done before 8 o'clock in the morning. So the VegBox admin person basically does that from 7 to 8 to make sure that's all ready for us to start at 8. And then we start packing. There's 2 parts of the packing. One is portions, so we portion everything up. As a rule of thumb, with 5 people, I like there to be no more than 900 portions to pack on a Wednesday. So if we're not doing some pre-packing on a Tuesday, if we haven't got that down to 900, then we're going to have we're going to get behind on the day. So last week, in fact, our VegBox manager was ill. We had someone on holiday and another person was ill too. And I was away for the whole day. And I suddenly came back on a Wednesday. It's like, okay, I've got to deal with all this. So we had to do everything in one day, and we did actually have to spill out over onto Thursday to make that happen. So, but looking back on it, we had 1,100 portions to do, and that just tipped the balance over for the day. We couldn't keep up. plus the fact that there was only one person who was not a rookie on the line, so we're kind of all getting used to it a bit. So that's the portions. Then we do the labeling. So we label that's all the labels get spit out of the printer in the order that they're delivered, so that we pre-label all the boxes that are done, and then so they're ready before we pack. And then we have 4 people packing and 1 person doing like floating around, tidying up, restocking. And then we stack boxes on a pallet. That pallet gets rolled into the cooler and it sits in there overnight. And that pallet is per delivery run. And then the drivers just wheel that out. Because there's got all that thermal mass in the boxes, and because we're only picking them out of the van one at a time, the whole stack stays cold for the whole day, even in the hottest day. So ambient has been absolutely fine. So I wouldn't class any of us. I'm probably the strongest person on the packing line, which is not saying much, I don't think. So it's all a lot of wheels everywhere. It's all designed so that you don't have to have huge strength or back strength to do it. So the drivers are, don't have to be Hercules to load up the vans. Yeah, and that's done. The only thing that we add to the boxes last minute are refills, household refills, because we don't really want detergent or washing up liquid in the box. And we also have put bread in on the doorstep as well, because that arrives on the morning. Everything else is packed in the box. So when you order a medium, less roots veg box with some oatcakes and with some butter and with some eggs, it's all in the same box. So the driver just has to pull it out, put it on the doorstep. It's amazing how many errors we've reduced by just simplifying that. Plus, it makes the capacity of your van much higher. In the past, in that EV van, we could only ever get 80 orders in because we're grabbing stuff from different areas. Now we can easily get 102, and if we're really stretching it, 110 orders in that tiny van.
Is that information on the label for the additions?
It is on the label. I have to be honest, we don't ever really look at the labels anymore, apart from just knowing that this box is for that person. Everything is on this packing screen, and we'll go through that. And so we pack to this screen. In fact, the guys on the packing line don't even know what box they've ordered. It's just a list of ingredients. And I have a feeling that helps us with our concentration and our accuracy, not being lazy about saying, oh yeah, it's a medium less roots, doing the same thing every day or every box. So now it's like, what have they ordered? Let's put it in. Oh, they happen to have ordered 2 eggs rather than 1 egg. So it's a list that you've got to look at every time, and our accuracy is definitely increased.
And that's on the tablet?
Yeah, we have 4 tablets, so we pack in stations, and then we have a final check before it goes into the pile. But yeah, we'll definitely go through all of that out there.
So you found it's quicker to have one person with one order just sliding the box along and like packing everything,
Nope.
Rather than and I'm assuming the alternative would be like one person on carrots, one person on
Exactly,
so that's
exactly.
quicker.
Yeah. So I'm not sure if you can see it, but these have colours, zones, and these are workstations. So the brown is the roots, and so they will do the roots and pass it down the line. And then the next person will do the greens. They'll put it in, pass it down the line. The problem with one person doing a box is that it's very difficult to check your own work, because you'll think, oh yeah, I've got it right. There's not going to be an error there. And the other thing is, if you're asking someone else to check it, they've got to undo the whole box to look at it. Whereas we've now got an error checking system that says, this person here, sorry, it's blue before green, this person here only checks the stuff beforehand. So before they put in their blue items, they say, have I got 4 root items in? Yes. Okay, I can pack mine in. The green person says, okay, before I do this, have I got the baby leek bunch and the eggs in there? Yes? Okay, I can do mine. So now you're only looking at 2 or 3 items, maybe 4, and so your success rate in detecting errors is going to be fantastic, because you're only looking at what's on the top of the box. And it also means that when you get to the end of the box, you're not unpacking everything to check it. And A, that takes a long time, but B, are you really going to be able to sensibly error check 15 items in a box? You're probably not, but you can error check 2 or 3 items. And we've reduced our errors down from about maybe 20 to 30 problems in a week to almost nothing. 1 or 2 if we're unlucky. And every time you make an error, you've got someone who's pissed off about it, and you've got to email them, you've got to have a correspondence about it, you've got to do refunds, you've probably put the item in the wrong box, and so someone's got a bonus, and so you've lost money all over the place, including customer loyalty. So error detection is really key, and it makes you fast.
With all the different, you've got 11 different boxes that you do, with all the add-ons, is there an easy system where, like, they've ordered a small box, but they've ordered enough add-ons to make it a large box? Is there something that makes that easy to know which box to reach for right at the beginning?
Yeah, that is experience, but what we do is we print out the whole run, and I'll show that when we do it, when we get out of there. And we'll look at it, and it'll be a small box plus 3 extras, that's a medium box.
Right, it's a judgment call based on the experience person.
Exactly. But if it changes on the line, we'll just rip the sticker off and change it, change the box size. The key is that we've got 2 sizes of boxes. We want the order to be in the same size box, so it's in the same area of the van, it's on the same stack, so we're just pulling off 1 of 2, 2 of 2 for the customer. It makes it much easier for the driver if it's in the same place in the van.
Sorry, can you say that again? I was trying to understand what you said, but I didn't catch it. Say that again.
So every order is packed together. So it might be a small veg box, but because they've ordered maybe a fruit box as well, or some extras, it's gone into a medium box. So I would then, when I'm putting the sticker on, I go, well, this looks like a medium, I'll put it in a medium box, okay? If down the line that changes, so maybe it spills off over 2 boxes, or maybe 2 mediums is like excessive, let's put it in 2 smalls. I'll rip the sticker off, grab a small box, and put the sticker on, and then add another box on top for the second part of the order. When it gets to the end, the person at the end will say, we'll print out another sticker and say 1 of 1, 2 of 2, so that those orders are together. And because they're the same size box, they're in the same place in the van. If I had a medium box and a small box in different areas of the van, a driver would make a mistake. So we just make sure it's in the same place. Okay, so the error checking is done along the line. The routes guy can be basically a bull in a china shop, just activity, because their work is checked later on. So they've got to be fast, but they don't have to necessarily be accurate, if you know what I mean. They do tend to be accurate. But the next 3 people are then they're checking and filling, so they're doing both sides. And the person at the end of the line, that's where you need the person who's a real sort of completer finisher, someone who's a bit more methodical, because there's no check after that stage. And so we've added a few extra checks for the final station by saying, these are all the extra, we actually pull out what you need for that run. And if there's anything left on the table after the run, we've made a mistake and we'll fix it right then and there before we pack it in the cooler. So we've got an additional layer of checking for the final workstation. But the final workstation prints out extra labels. It might put a bit of glue on the box if it's come apart, or it might, if it's a new customer, we put a new customer card saying, welcome to the scheme, here's some information about it, so that they're kind of tying the bow on the box at the end. And then they do the stacking before it goes into the cooler. Okay? I know I'm rabbiting on, I hope this is useful. If I'm wasting your time, please let me know. Okay, and then we get to the delivering. So like I say, everything's packed on pallets, and I'll show you how we pack the pallets. It's rolled into the cooler. And we actually pack Friday's deliveries first, because then it's at the back of the cooler. If you go to the cooler on a Thursday morning, all you can see is big piles of boxes. And the last thing I want to expect the drivers to do is to pull out Fridays first and then to get to Thursdays. So Thursdays are are the last to pack, but they're the first to get access to in the cooler. So they're rolled out. I totted up how many mediums we can get in this small van. So that's a small mini van, you can just see there. We can get 58 medium boxes in the back, and we can get 69 small boxes in the front. So that's a lot of boxes, right? I think it's a lot. And we've got some customers who get 3, and in excessive cases, they get 4 boxes as part of their order. And there'll be a big stack of 4 for their order. And so that's just put out on their doorstep. It's a very small point, but the packing efficiency has made us able to put much more in the van. It's easier for the driver because they've only got to access one pigeonhole. That's the next box they've got to get out. It's very simple. And it means that the whole thing is kept cold because you're not having them all the boxes spread out. They're in a thermal mass. So really, it is an important point in terms of how you pack the van. The driver app, we reuse the tablets for packing in the van. So it's like a big smartphone, so it's easier to see. And the driver app sequentially goes through the orders. So you just say complete, navigate, complete, navigate, complete. And it's all linked up to Google Maps. So there are 2 of the tablets have a SIM card in. It's a what's the cheap? Gift gaff, thank you. So it's a cheap gift gaff, £6 a month, SIM card, and data only. And actually, it does come with a phone number, so the drivers can make calls and do emails from the tablet too if they want to, if they can't find the address, for example. So it's really, really simple. We did use a professional route optimization software in the past, which was fantastic. It had more features, but this is built into the system and is designed to work with veg boxes. And although it's simpler, that simplicity just makes it really, really easy to use. So when I'm driving, I will navigate to the next customer, and you can overlay the map on top of the order so that while I'm at a traffic light, I can go, they need bread. They need a refill. So in my mind, I'm getting ready for the stop. I can see the order, I can see the navigation in one spot, and by the time I get there, I'm ready to go. And it's amazing how fast you can get through orders if you're ready to deliver it straight away at the doorstep. So like I say, when we're doing Oxford, 102 deliveries in 6.5 hours is not a problem. That's pretty good going. Sat nav. Yes, and when you press the complete button, it sends an email to the customer saying it's been delivered. And so hopefully, if a customer has got their email and the driver's put it in the next door village and they go out to the doorstep and it's not there, we can actually say, driver, you've got to go fix your problem. You haven't gone too far, go fix the problem. Luckily, we don't really have that too many different mismatches in pin locations. It tends to be for new build houses where the Google Maps hasn't quite caught up with where it is. But there's a button here where the driver can say update pin position. So if it really is not going in the right place, but you know it's in this place, you can say update pin position, and the software will then therefore always deliver to that point rather than what it thinks it should be delivered to. So I've used that quite often for ones where I know that it's a customer is kind of on 2 streets apart, but there's just a gateway between. I'll put the pin there so I know that I can just deliver to the same 2 customers in one spot. So that's good. I can't overstate how good it is having a holistic system where it all just works together. If I change the order, it goes through to the driver app, goes through the packing screen, everything just filters through. I don't have to reprint things out. I don't have to jump through hoops to make sure it works. It just propagates through the system. Customer support. Now there's really 2 things. One is being good at customer support. So this, yep.
So do you have an interval of time when you are delivering to the customers in the beginning of the day or later on? How long the boxes stay in the front door? They are damaging because
If it's in the sun, yeah, or if it's raining, yeah. Yeah, so our drivers know that they have to put something in the shade, and they've got to know that the sun moves, so make sure it's in the shade in the afternoon. We also take bags with us that customers can give back if it's raining, so we'll wrap it up. If someone is worried about it, quite a lot of people put a plastic box outside with a lid that we put it in there. So if someone is worried about it being stolen or being open to the elements, then we say this is what you need to do on your doorstep to make it ready. But yeah, it tends to happen when the seasons suddenly change and the drivers are kind of caught unawares of it. But yeah, we do try and manage it as best as possible. So the workflow, the customer support, it's email only. We don't have a phone line.
No, sorry, I'm stretching.
Oh, I'm getting boring. So email only, no phone calls. But if you don't have a phone line, you can't speak to someone, you have to respond quickly. If you're waiting for 2 or 3 days, respond on my email. That's when you're going to get a customer who's really pissed off. So this is we use Freshdesk. It's a great software. It's, I don't know, £12 a month to run or something like that. There's 3 of us who do it, so we all look at it. It's on our apps, on our phone, but it's also online. So we can see the thread of a customer support issue. We can see what has been responded in the past. If they email back, it reopens. So it's fantastic bit of software. We have canned responses, so I can say, your payment system didn't work, go update it, and then I can see when they've responded. So that's great. It means that we can, as a team, be much more successful at following up on issues in a timely manner. The other thing I haven't written here is that we try and head off customer support as much as possible before it becomes an issue. If we know that we've got some damage on the chart or something, we'll let people know about it so that when they get it, they're not surprised by some shitty looking chart, but tasty, so that they're actually in the right psyche. We've headed off 15 emails by letting people know up front, and it's much easier to let people know that in the front. We're not perfect. We kind of sometimes we don't have time to do the emails, but if you can do that, it really frees up the rest of your day and the subsequent week. So, and the other part of that is providing enough information in the mailer and on the website so that it's really used and people can basically self-help. They can help themselves, they can navigate through it and bother me less. I can provide food rather than support. Okay? I would, if you, no matter what you do, if you are doing a lot of email support, I would definitely recommend Freshdesk as a platform. Okay, so that's how we do it. Now it's all about how we make it quick and how we make it profitable. So when we're looking at efficiency, we're always doing small incremental improvements. If you try and change something too quickly, too fast, too quickly, too much, you don't really, you're throwing everything up in the air and it's a bit random as to what you're going to achieve. And you may not be able to attribute it to some change. So we're always changing things incrementally, looking at the results. Does it work? Is it faster? Is the quality maintained? And then feed that back into the cycle. This is part of a workshop that I've done with the team to look at efficiency and how we can support each other in looking at these issues. And it's my belief that if a mistake has been made, it's not that person's mistake, it's the process around it that's made that mistake. So if we can look at that together and say, how is that process wrong that meant that we've got this error? How can we work on making it better? Then the blame is not on the person, it's on how we're doing it. And it's incredible how that has turned into a really virtuous thing. So now people are telling me what to do, how it should be better. I demonstrated how to do labels really quickly, and then the next week, the guys had found a way of doing it that's far better, far better than I could have done. So we're actually learning off each other. So I think really key thing is it's the process that's the problem, not the person. Just occasionally it is the person, but that's when we part ways. So Also look at particular things that you know are the quick wins for getting efficiency. Is there a bottleneck? So for us, the big bottleneck is Wednesday. We've got 2 new visitors, sorry, chickens. So for us, Wednesday is a big bottleneck. If I can free up tasks from a Wednesday, it makes Wednesday go much quicker. So let's get things out of it. Let's work in parallel, not in sequence, in series. How can we work better in terms of preparation and parallel working? When we get to the packing line, we can achieve 100 boxes an hour because everything is in place and it's just a flow. We're just going through the motions. By then, we've done all the hard work to make it successful. Is anything lengthy? Is it a big job? If we're packing 200 bags of kale, let's get that right. If we're packing 10 bags of kale, then you can have a cup of tea while you do it, do whatever. I don't really care about it. Let's get the things that are really long, make sure that they work, so that we can cut down on the effort. Is it repetitive? So if we're doing the same thing over and over and over again, that is prime for finding out, taking seconds out of every single process, and then you can find that you can bag 250 bags of mushrooms in 20 minutes less because you've just changed the layout of the workstation, changed the layout of how things are accessed. And if you've been doing this for a long time, you know this because you've built it up with your experience, but trying to convey that to someone new or someone who's green in an effective manner means that we can get better really quickly. We can get someone into the process and be effective straight away. So can we prepare? Can we get stuff out of the day? So on Wednesday last week, I had to come back and see that all the boxes hadn't been de-stickered because everyone had just sort of gone. And I knew instantly, all right, that's an hour of my day on a Wednesday that I've lost. An hour of one person. That should have been done on Tuesday. The team should have let me know on Tuesday night, and I would have come down on Tuesday night to do it so that it wouldn't clog up that bottleneck of Wednesday. So that's something that we've now learnt over the last week, and we've got a series of checklists now to make sure that we are pack ready, so that if we have a change in personnel from the veg box management perspective, we know where we are on our checklists. Can we organize ourselves differently? Sometimes it's best to join together. Packing salad, there's quite a few operations in salad. There's the putting it in a bag, there's the labeling the bag, there's the closing the bag. And sometimes if we're doing flowers, we put flowers in as a separate operation, so it's not too everyone's getting a fair share of flowers. It makes much more sense to split up the work and work together packing it rather than one person doing it, because you'll find that you'll pack salad 20% quicker with 2 of you working together than if it was only one person. So, how can we organize ourselves differently? Are we standing around waiting for someone? If someone is on the packing line waiting for the next box to come along, that's not efficient, okay? So if that happens occasionally, step away from the line, do some tidying up, restack the shelves, be busy. But if it's happening for the whole thing, we've got the load balancing of the workstations wrong, let's change it. So always thinking about this sort of stuff. And then communication. So what works, what doesn't, learning from each other, mentoring people, taking customer feedback, even though some customer feedback I hate because it's like so aggressive, and someone's emailed in saying this is the worst thing that's ever happened in my life, and then you think, you calm down and you go, okay, and that was a reaction, but actually what they've said is really valuable. I can learn from that and make it better for not only them but other customers too. So I have to thank my wife for that in terms of being a bit more zen, but it's really interesting to have the mindset that feedback, even if it's aggressive, actually tends to be quite valuable. You can learn something from it. And communication with the team is really important as well. Okay, packing day efficiency.
Just the team, do you have people like over the years who's coming and work with you, or every year they are changing, and how you motivate them to not staying and waiting and to get things done? This mentality is
Yeah, so we've created some documents, I could whiz over that now, specifically designed to counteract that. So we have a new staff introduction checklist of when we're getting someone in, and typically we have a set number of people, but occasionally we have people coming in. This is what we need to talk them through, to make sure that they're more effective, they know what's going on, they can communicate. Oh, you're right.
I think you've locked the screen or something.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Okay, it's basically, I'll read through it. Basically, introduction to the farm, bagging and weighing, looking at accuracy, how things are organized, choosing the right bag for the thing, and you'll see that in the packing shed. Efficient packing methods, how you can get better, the packing board and how we communicate with the packing board, labeling, how we use crates, what we fit into crates. So it drives me nuts when people are writing up on the board, I've done another bag of salad or whatever. No, we know that we put 16 bags of salad in a crate. We'll count the crates. Okay, it's much quicker. It means that we can share the load and just count the crates. And at the end, we can write up the final number. So it's about that communication working together. And if you've got a new person coming in, they need to know that. We need to get them up to speed in like 5 minutes. And that's what we've used as a checklist to get that through. And that was all learning from last week, because we basically had a completely rookie team on the packing line. Only one regular was on there. And we realized that if this happens again, we need to be able to respond to that much better. And so we created a whole load of checklists to make sure that's happening. As it happens, someone who had a bad back, he could write the checklist at home. So he was utilized when he was laying up. Okay, other things, time critical paths. So if something's critical, we've got to meet a deadline. Let's focus on that, make sure it happens. Errors and error detection, or break down repetitive tasks, division of labor and tasks, how can we break it up? If we're breaking it up and it's taking longer, don't do it. But if we're breaking it up and it's quicker, let's do it. Errors and error detections, I talked about a little bit, but it's much cheaper to find an error early. Standard manufacturing practice, you don't want to have something end up being faulty. You want to find the faults early. And information and targets. So the more information you have, the less likely you are to underpick, the less likely you are to overpick, the more likely you are just to know what the state is. And rather than me telling you you've overpicked or underpicked, you know yourself. You can look at, in fact, the whole site is mobile friendly, so you can look at the whole picking list on your phone in the field, just to double check if the numbers have changed. So it's important. Okay, just quickly, my general approach is, and this is what I say to the team, is like free up Wednesday. Anything that can be done before, move it. Get it out of Wednesday. Let the whole team be aware of what's needed. No information gatekeepers. If it requires someone to tell you what to do, there's a problem. You should be able to access the information yourself. Standardized portions and portions per crate. So if I've got 3 weights of salad on the website, it's going to be a nightmare in the packing shed. Let's make sure that things are standardized, and we know and we communicate with each other how many portions go in a crate, so that we count the crates and then we're off. It just makes it much easier. Evenly balanced, the packing line needs to keep moving. If it stopped, 4 or 5 people are sitting around waiting. If we don't have something ready, we've all got to stop. That's like we're wasting 10 minutes, probably wasting 15, 20 boxes worth of activity. So keep it moving. Evenly balanced workload. We've got to make sure that someone's not really stressed out or someone's just sitting around and twiddling their thumbs. Let's work on balancing that workload. Each workstation must be ergonomic so that it works naturally with how your body will move and where your hands are and where the tablet is and where we put the vegetables on the line. So that could be undervalued, but the ergonomics can really make a big difference to your comfort and, crucially for me, the speed. Comfort is also important. error detection into the process, and you've got to look at workstation skill sets. I think I alluded to this earlier. The person who's on the routes is really quick, and the person who's at the end is really fastidious. So look at the personalities of the people on the line. And this is just something I pulled off a manufacturing website. This is kind of typically how we've organized our workstations. So we've got our tablets here, we've got our vegetables close to hand, and we've got our workstation there. So when I'm laying out a workstation, the 3 or 4 most popular veg items will be right there in front of you. If that person has only got to put in 2 cauliflowers in the whole day, it can be across the farmyard for all I care. I don't care, it can be out of the way. It's not going to use this valuable space right in front of me. In front of me, it's going to be the stuff that you're going to put in most of the boxes. So you're just going like this. If you're turning around, you're now not looking at the label, the packing screen. You've forgotten what it is. What was it? Was it 2 or was it 1? So if it's right there, you can really concentrate on it. And so I often say to the team, if it doesn't feel right in the first half an hour, let's change the workstation so that it does feel right, because that will make a big difference to how it works. And the other thing we've done is make the packing line linear. Before we're kind of turning around and changing things, and now it's all linear. You can see when someone's getting behind. If someone's getting behind, I might jump up and help them out, or restart, help them out. So if you're all in a line, you can see how each other's doing. And so this is where I was talking about checklists. So have we done our admin? Have we done our new staff training? Are we ready for Tuesday night? So am I going to come on Wednesday morning and have a problem? So am I ready? On the packing checklist, have I completed the day properly? Is the driver paperwork done? Are the driver tablets plugged in overnight? Is the EV plugged in? All these things that if the driver comes in, there's a problem. It can add 2 or 3 hours to the day. In terms of resource, it takes us about an hour and a half to do the planning and wholesale order, about an hour to do the stock control availability. That's where we're getting more sales by putting more stuff on the site to get more add-ons, so that's on a Friday. Tuesday portions, typically it's about 2 people for 2 hours to get ahead on some of the portions. The pack day is 5 people, so that's 5 people for 8 hours. The drivers is 2 people for 16 hours, so they each do 2 runs. And the customer support is roughly about an hour equivalent. So if you run a VegBox scheme now, I know how I used to run it, and this is amazing in terms of the admin overhead, particularly as we're sharing it across the team, and it's not just one person. So that's what I mean. Like I reckon our VegBox scheme at 400 probably has the same admin equivalent of 100 to 150 box scheme size. So it's good.
Is it 100 drops in 8 hours for a driver?
Well, in Oxford, it's 6.5 hours for 100 drops. In rural Buckinghamshire or South Bucks, it'd probably be 8 hours for 70 drops because there's a lot of distance to travel.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, and I wouldn't call our drivers sort of professional drivers. They're both part-time. Certainly, one of them wanted to get away from her kids and give her kids to the dad for 2 days, get out of the house, and now she's actually got other part-time work as well. But yeah, they're fun, and customers like them because they'll have a chat on the doorstep. And but yeah, they're not professional drivers like you'd see on an Amazon delivery. Pull up, knock on the door, throw it over the hedge, disappear.
When you say that, we were speaking to a Sainsbury's delivery driver who said they do 20 drops in a day.
Wow.
And we were like, what?
Yeah.
What are you doing? Sitting
Yeah.
in lay-by eating a ginsters all day?
Yeah, that's extraordinary.
Yeah.
So these are the recurring topics for us: speed, information, error detection, and layout, which we'll see out in this packing shed. What time is it?